Commissioners meeting for November 18, 2025 order. I get you to join me, ladies and gentlemen, for a moment of silence. Lots of things in the world that need praying about. Thank you. Mr. Pro Tem.
Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda adoption, addition, deletion, changes.
I would like to move that we put the last board minutes on the, take it off the consent agenda and move it to the regular agenda. According to our ordinance bylaws, I don't think that requires a second.
No, it does not.
And I think it doesn't require a vote. If I'm not mistaken.
Where was that?
In chapter 30, Board of Commissioners,
No, which number?
it was in the consent agenda, 6B,
Okay, got that.
and so I don't know where we want to move it.
Do you want to move to the regular
Yes,
agenda?
please.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts, changes? Chair will entertain a motion to adopt as proposed to move the town board minutes to the agenda adoption. All in favor, aye?
Okay.
Opposed likewise, motion carries.
Do you want that from here on out?
No, just this meeting.
Yeah.
Or, well, I shouldn't say just this meeting.
One minute. All right. In a minute, we're going to continue this item 5, public hearing on downtown historic preservation district designation. I'm going to take a minute. We started this process in about 2010 to try to get, I call it the brown sign on the highway to get people to stop. My personal belief is, if you believe it, I took a 26-day or 25-day trip across the United States in 1998, and every place they had one of those signs that I stopped was the gym. It was what things used to be, it was what people came to see. So that's what I'm asking today. Second, when I was chairman of the county commissioner, a bunch of us wanted to save the Polk County Courthouse. There were a bunch of other people saying, no, it's gonna cost too much money, we don't wanna do that. And then we saved the Polk County Courthouse. The history of it. And almost everybody that said we shouldn't spend that money, went in and went, oh wow, we're gonna save this. So that's what I'm trying to say, folks. You're looking around the towns. And I lived in Columbus for a while. When you get off the interstate, what's the first thing you see if you go to Columbus? It's not pretty, then you finally get downtown. And Stearns, where I used to be principal, and the courthouse there have been preserved. That's all I'm saying, okay? Tim, I want to open it and turn it over to you.
Okay. Excuse me. The Tryon Historic Preservation Commission began pursuing a local historic designation in January of last year, 2024. A local designation is a preservation effort to keep the integrity of downtown historic buildings' exteriors to retain their historic facades and features in the downtown commercial district. The Missildines building on the corner of Trade and Oak is a prime example of what can happen with one. Now, it's been a prominent visual attraction of the town for years now. The owner renovated it voluntarily following the Federal Department of the Interior standards to get it to its current appearance, while there were no local historic designation design guidelines in place. With the enabling of a local historic designation, the town would have the ability to work with property owners in the renovation process using state-inspired guidelines and assistance to get the building to historic standards. Of course, increased costs would be a factor based on the standards, but some of those could be offset by facade grants and the North Carolina Main Street Association assistance with drafting and renderings. In addition, studies by recognized experts across the country and Southeast and the Southeast have shown that property values within historic districts increase and fare better during economic downturns. Our Historic Preservation Commission members, including architects, designers, and others approved by the council, have attended and will continue to attend seminars and training with the State Historic Preservation Office and the North Carolina Main Street Association, so their decisions will be evidence-based. Some items of note: this is not a retroactive designation. If enacted, it only applies to any projects going forward. Any work that has been done up until this decision is grandfathered in. Per a 2015 federal report on designation, there would be contributing and non-contributing buildings in this district. Non-contributing buildings are those that have been so altered within the last 50 years which don't retain enough historic features that they've lost their historic character. There is substantial flexibility with these buildings in regards to the standards. That is my opening.
Okay. Okay.
I do have a question. Could you repeat the part where you said that during economic downturns, the property values generally fare better?
They seem to hold their value better than,
And what's the source of that?
I will have to get that for you. I thought it was in the packet.
It may be in those links.
And it could also be in the links. I'm not sure if that information is in here, so as far as regular non-downturns or common economic, the values are across the board. Statistically, they have held their property or increased in value.
Okay, so then again, where is that data coming from?
That should be those were in the links I sent, and I believe, if you want to give me a minute, I'll pick it up.
And the links that, and maybe I just didn't read it, but it seemed more anecdotal than it did factual.
It could be in one of the links I sent you via email. And as far as the factual, I think I addressed that in the addendum with how we can come up, well, on the renovation costs, that one is hard to quantify because each situation is gonna be different. There are many factors to that. I will have to look up
I think it's in one of those attachments you emailed.
Yeah,
I think it was.
I got
I think it was more in one of the videos.
I think
in one of the videos too.
today, based on an email I sent over the weekend.
I mean, it could be included in the videos also. I sent the links to that author.
Looking for that. I'll see if there are any questions or comments from the public. We do have a public hearing. Please identify yourself for the record and then, yes.
Adam Orland, 38 North Credit Street. A few things that I'd like to point out. First off, I'll start with the missile line building. So the Lanes, as stated, voluntarily entered into that arrangement where they ceded control or complied with the regulations of the National Park Service and those departments in exchange for a substantial tax credit. So what's been proposed here is there's no exchange for that loss of control. The other point that I would like to make is that contributing versus non-contributing, we've been told that several times, that our building is non-contributing. However, the essay, which is a page and a half long essay about the history of the town, is the guideline for how the committee would react to what you would propose as exterior improvements. That essay is the same for contributing and non-contributing big buildings. So it's completely subjective. And this isn't like a zoning ordinance where the building would say it's commercial or a single-family home. This is an essay, a 1.5 page essay. So this committee could say anything they wanted to in regards to what you suggest or what you wanted to do to your own building. Last point I want to make too is, and it came up in the last one, is that, you know, this is listed as historic preservation. I personally love history. I love the history of this town. When we were here last time, I mentioned that the Owens Pharmacy sign, we were told in the historic preservation meeting that would need to stay. And I checked with Barry Butler, whose father owned the Owens Pharmacy building. And he said when he far back remember, let's say the early 80s, that the awnings were wooden pickets. So, I mean, I don't think anybody wants wooden pickets. The point I'm making is that this is completely subjective. It's disingenuous in my opinion to call it historic preservation. That's how you garner public support for it. Because it's like, well, nobody wants to not preserve history.
I have a question. You mentioned the,
Yes, ma'am, please identify yourself.
I'm sorry. I'm Amy Warland, 38th Century Street. You mentioned the courthouse that you saved. I'm assuming this was a publicly owned building that was funded by taxpayers. Is that correct? Or was it
The
issued privately?
first time it was done, we raised close to $900,000.
But who owned the building?
The county, yes.
But we own this building.
Understand.
Are people gonna raise money for us if we can't afford to do the renovations that are now required?
I don't know, I have a question.
But I don't think that's a good example to cite to people for why you wanna do this when you're talking about a publicly owned building versus a privately owned building.
Well, then we use Trondae Bulletin. It's a privately
Use
owned
what?
building. Trondae Bulletin is a privately owned building. It
Okay.
was restored, it was paid for by the people who owned it, and it's on the national
Well, I think that's
register.
wonderful if they had the funding for it.
It's a voluntary.
I think what you as a town are faced with is that you know, Adam and I who purchased this building when this was not in place, and if it goes in place, it's going to change what we do. And I think that has to be considered, because I don't know that we will do anything. We may sell it, if it's more valuable, according to you, we'll be glad to sell it for a higher price. And make money, that would be wonderful, and then we can walk away and you all can have your town.
And made that analogy, I mean, why wasn't that the scenario here? Why didn't a group of people and you talk about saved, we're not knocking the building down, we're not,
Yeah, I know, yeah.
but why didn't others buy it, I guess?
Well, and
They wanted to have control over.
Look, I offend a lot of people, I'm gonna do something like that. You came here, you were willing to write a check to buy a building.
Right.
How much background did you do?
And this was already underway. We were voting at the time y'all bought
I am not gonna justify our position for buying buildings, but I am telling you the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation is that we have serious reservations about the direction of the town if this historic preservation is put in place. When you look at a city like Charlotte and you say, oh, well, there's lots of areas that have historic preservation. Well, investors can move away from that area and they can go into a different area. Moving away from this area means moving to another town. And you're already seeing, I follow it very closely, you're already seeing housing prices that are not, they're not going up, houses are sitting. All of the work that's been done, right now, Tryon TV is on an upward trajectory. It's Alan Casavan, who we've talked to many times, and the renovations and it's very, it looks great. But if you put these types of restrictions, it moves investors away. And I don't think I feel like the meetings I've attended and what I've listened to has been very short-sighted. It's always been on the side of let's do this. And it's not talking about the reality of what this does to investment. And there is a reality to it. And you can either acknowledge it or not, or you can choose to look at it or not, or you may just live it. I don't know. But I know personally what I'm willing to do with my money and my investment changes if this is passed. And that's all I can say. It's not to be malicious. I really love it here. I mentioned that we might want to live here at a meeting, and people laughed about that because we opposed what they thought, which was disheartening. But I want to make this work, but I just don't know if I can. And that is all I can say.
Understand? Next.
Yes, my name's Karen Master-Serio. I live in the town of Tryon, and I've done historic restoration, not here, in a large city, Cincinnati. And with my own private home, didn't ask for money, we bought it, and we knew what the cost was gonna be. You bought a building, you're gonna do some kind of changes, you had a budget. How much different is it to do a historic, sympathetic restoration to the exterior of the building? This in no way impacts what you do,
It's
or
not
your,
about what we
excuse
do,
me,
it's
I
about
am still talking, I have the floor. And you will wait
If
for
I
me
have an
to
outburst
finish.
like that again, you will no longer be talking
I'm
about it.
sorry.
For either of you.
I'm sorry.
Let me finish. What you do to the inside of the building and what your money you put in there, that is your own thing. But if you came here and this was part of the agenda that was being talked about, then shame on you if you didn't do your due diligence to figure it out. The fact that you paint the building, you don't paint the building. Nobody's asking you to put up picket awnings. You do sympathetic things. Your bottom dollar, how much does that change to do it correctly, sympathetically, and honor this town, as opposed to doing, I don't know what your plans are. I don't know what it looks like. But I think you're way off base on this. It has nothing to do with housing costs. This isn't a housing unit. I'm not talking homes. You are in a historic town. You like historic towns, but you are not willing to do what needs to be done to respect the history of this town.
Ma'am, based on this, it's non-conforming. So within reason, they can do what they want to.
Yeah.
Okay?
But that was one of the questions that I've tried to get answered, is just the question that you asked. How much extra would it cost to do it historically? You know, and I've been unable to get that type of data.
Depends on if he wants to go with tearing the brick facade off that building, take it back to Lapwood, versus knocking out those windows, bringing the wall down some, changing it up and make it look up. I mean, you know, I love the Butler, but that's an ugly ass building. And, and, you know, I know you probably have plans to freshen it up, but I've also watched the upstairs art space destroy a perfectly good mercantile building, because there were no guidelines. And I've watched another property owner here tacky their building up so bad with wrought iron on the top, and, you know, there needs to be guidelines. That's, I've been here 44 years, and, you know, I built the ugliest building in downtown Trenton. I will say that.
But the guideline.
Hi, I'm Lynn Perlmutter. I live here downtown. I think it's important to keep the history and the money separate, because they are, you know, one is art, sort of, and one is science, sort of. You can count the numbers and you can count the money, but you can't count the history. It's just a different subject. And one doesn't exclude the other. It's a human thing. And I think the town, with its mission of preserving its history and natural surroundings, has committed to be focused on the history and the natural surroundings. And if we start talking about what is a good investment and what isn't a good investment, and are we going to analyze why somebody would want to put their money here, it's a different conversation. I'm a real estate person, I was an appraiser, and what people always say about appraisals is that it's an art and a science. And there are ways that you can cite numbers based on other numbers that can come up with a valuation for what you're gonna pay for a building. But the art is in finding similarities and history and stories and the charm. How do you put a number on charm? You can't. So that's one thing. And the other thing I wanted to say is that this commission, however long ago, 2015, 2010, actually planned and commissioned the Historic Preservation Commission because it was a job to research and create the guidelines to make a historic district. It was a mission, it was a designation for the committee to happen and to make this happen. So it's not opinions, it's a set of rules and guidelines that's been adopted already by 540 towns in North Carolina, because it's how they plan to preserve their history. And it's not at all about attracting investors. It's about preserving history. So I appreciate, I'm a realtor, I appreciate buying and selling and making money and renovating, and all of that's gonna happen. But I just don't think that that's what this historic preservation designation is about. And I think it needs to be considered.
And Lynn, just being honest with you, I have sympathy for the man. He's the one writing the checks. He has, if we pass this, he has to trust us to keep our word, and not go back and say, you gotta do this, and this. But we have to trust him to keep spending that money. So we have as much trust as anything else. I'm not writing the checks. I want my town preserved. And being real honest about it, folks, at my age, I'll soon be 80, I want to leave this town better than I found it. And by God, when I found it, we had 16 empty storefronts and $1.58 million in the red, and that man right there helped pull us out of this. So I don't ever want to go back there. So that's my 15 cents worth. Yes, sir.
To speak to Mr. Kroll's statement about cost, I did reach out to Rutherfordton, Forest City, and Hendersonville, who all have historic designations. Rutherfordton stated, unfortunately, we don't have anything that quantifies the financial impact of being inside a local historic district versus outside of one. In their experience, it's a nearly impossible metric to calculate accurately because every building renovation and investor behaves differently, not to mention material costs fluctuate yearly. So he said he simply does not have those numbers. And then to answer Councilperson Morris's, in section 8, number 2, the article from the National Trust for Historic Preservation Says properties within local historic districts appreciate at rates greater than the local market overall, as well as faster than similar non-designated neighborhoods. Findings on this point are consistent across the country. Moreover, recent analysis shows that historic districts are also less vulnerable to market volatility from interest rate fluctuations and economic downturns. I mean, that's from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. I can dig deeper if I need to on that one.
When did you reach out to Rutherford, Hendersonville, and?
Rutherford, Forest City, and Hendersonville.
Oh, when?
After I received your email this weekend about the concerns about those numbers.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I'd made that request at the last meeting.
So,
Adam had his hand up first.
so, I would say that that's maybe that correlation to causation. With all the renovations that have occurred, I would imagine the property values in town have gone up as a result. Yet none of the certificate of appropriateness has been established. You see what I'm saying? So it went up regardless of that being established. To Lynn's point, we would love nothing more than to have input and guidance and counsel from the Historic Preservation Committee. We have every incentive whatsoever to have the building be charming. I mean, why would we want it to be ugly or not consistent with the town? I mean, and that's why we've seen all this beautiful renovation around town. There's national incentives. But if you put in a committee that has authority and oversight, it creates uncertainty, it creates delays in timelines. It's not good from an investor's standpoint who wants to come in and make improvements to a building.
I would respectfully disagree with that.
So
I know you had your hand up.
Yes, hi, I'm
Sorry.
Sarah Savaston, and I'm a resident of Tryon, and an architect, and, to your point, the data is difficult to find, it's nested within a lot of studies and papers done by people in the field. One company is called Clarion Associates, out of Colorado, and I can help you with some of this data, but, according to a paper that was written in 2007 by Jonathan Mabey, who's a PhD in the Department of Urban Planning in the city of Tucson. Basically, some of the summaries were that historic district designation typically increases residential property values by 5 to 35% per decade over the values of similar undesignated neighborhoods. And again, this is residential, but, in terms of designated versus non-designated. Also, some of the other findings were interesting, that the values of newer properties within designated historic districts increase along with those of older properties. So that's newer development coming into the district. Local historic district designation decreases investor uncertainty and insulates property values from wild swings in the market. So these were just some of the findings in the comparative studies throughout, some of the studies that they did. So I know that you were looking for some of that specific information, and I know it's out there. It just takes a little time to get that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And that was Jonathan?
That actually, the statistics came from Clarion Associates.
Right.
Out of Colorado. And they're in urban planning.
Right.
Yeah. And also Ripkema, which I think was also sent in the package. He is one of the foremost authorities on historic designations and the benefits of historic designations.
If you could find some of that and make sure she got it at some point later, please, ma'am.
Okay, and again, Ripkema is Rypkema. And I think that name, I think it's Daniel is his first name, I think that was in the packet.
The first two attachments, I just looked at them, Tim, have a lot of those.
Yeah, those links, that guy is the big
Yeah,
resource for
Dan
this.
Rip, come
I
on,
did
is gonna
send
be
him
your
links.
best source for finding those numbers and percentages and,
You know, and when I read that, I didn't get sort of the raw data type, it was more anecdotal is what.
I understood, and there are some charts and things that, you know, they won't be apples to apples per se, in terms of some may be, residential, but some
Right.
also, commercial.
Okay.
But there is also.
Let's move on. Is someone saying you have another comment? Okay,
I was gonna,
yes, sir.
Greg Miner, Tryon. So first of all, I don't think we're inventing the wheel, right? I mean, we've done this, towns have done this before, right? Rutherfordton, Hendersonville. I mean, so this is not something that's new. I mean, we're not breaking, some ceiling or something like that. So it shouldn't be that difficult. Plus, I know Alan Casavents comes from a preservation society. I mean, he believes in it. And he buys homes or businesses with the idea of investing and keeping the preservation of that building. So he's kind of with us, even though he's kind of fighting us, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So the thing I have about Alan is that he buys all these properties all around. He's investing in a lot, and he's acquiring all these properties. And I'm just wondering if he's having an outside influence on the rest of the town, that we start to lose what our input on the commissioners and stuff, because this man has all these properties and all these investments. And the other thing is that he raises the property rental rates to the point that the retailers have to move out. I mean, some of them have already moved out, and because they can't afford it. Sometimes it's tough. And so who's he trying to attract to come into town if the locals can't afford it? Is it good?
Economics eventually take over.
So you're looking for deeper pockets. Are those deeper pockets coming from someplace else, Florida or the coast or something? How much influence are we gonna have if that stuff starts to move in? So my concern is, or my interest is, the Tryon Historical Preservation Commission will leave us with some influence about what happens with our buildings. That's my point.
Can I make a couple points?
Sure.
We've got about 5 years until hundreds of visitors are gonna be pedaling by this building right here. That's gonna change the dynamics greatly of the retail situation in town. And I think prior to the trail being completed, other investors, and Adam, I've got complete confidence after talking with you and Amy about what your plans are for this building. But we've got 3 blocks basically of downtown, and if the wrong investor comes in and brutalizes the building, that's gonna be just a true blot on the city. And I don't think we want that. There was a great article today, it was in the Daily Mail, I don't know if people saw that or not. Kind of strange, it's a UK newspaper, and they did a special on Tryon. And they went through the history and said the visitors were coming because of the historic nature of the town. And it went through all the equestrian and everything, but I thought that was it was a great article and a great boost to people wanting to come here. But let's keep the character and I've been back and forth on this thing so many times, it's pitiful. But I think will help the town in the long run.
Yeah, and I think, Adam, that, they're open to, different design ideas. It being non-conforming, I think they're gonna be very flexible with whatever you and Amy end up doing with your building. I've been up and down on this too. It's been a crazy roller coaster for all of us. But we all do wanna keep the character of the town. And, you know, I personally got a lot of last minute information that opened my eyes to, things that I didn't know about until this weekend. And I think it's very important that we all work together. I think if this does pass, the COA needs to be a reasonable price. The turnaround needs to be swift, and people need to keep an open mind for, looking at the designs.
And I guess for me, how do you ensure that people will keep an open mind? And in terms of the proper turnaround, we need to have something in writing that says if a builder or owner wants something that it has to be, we need to define that and make sure that it happens, and not that, oh, well, so-and-so's on vacation. Because if you're in the building industry, you can't wait, or it's hard to wait to have that downtime. And I'm not so sure that we have the staffing level that would get that proper turnaround. And I just don't, I mean, I've done projects myself, and it's not always easy for my builder to get a timely answer on some of the questions. So, that and not having, you know, I'd asked for the data a while back, you know, from local, and still got what I received was non-responsive. So, I love the historic nature of Tryon. And I think this is, as Commissioner Crowe mentioned, what if someone else comes in and they do some ugly renovation? How do you, and then going back to Mr. Worland's comment, builders aren't coming in to build something ugly. That's you know, that's not a good investment. So, I just don't have enough confidence in the process, and yeah, I don't have confidence in the process. And we talk about they could get grants, they might get grants. Well, again, where are studies showing that, you know, owners have requested grants, here's how much they got, here's how often they were approved, and surely that data is somewhere. Maybe the lady in the back would be able to find that, but I remember talking about grants and the probability of those. So again, I just don't think we have enough information to really make a decision.
Just another. So again, the guidelines, they're not black and white, like this is the kind of window and that kind of thing. It's an essay, which is a historic essay of the town. I apologize, go on, I lost my train of thought.
Okay. I mean, can we?
Well, I'm sorry, I got it.
Go ahead.
So there's not a guideline, it's essay. Let's take about a factor too. So my present tenant is the historical museum, is a museum. I haven't been making any friends and making my case with this. Who's to say that they're not retribution? No, we're gonna take, we gotta take a few more weeks. I mean, if you guys have tried to schedule contractors, you know how difficult that is.
Can we, as council, set a turnaround date for your committee. When his blueprints are submitted, you've got 60 days to,
It's 45.
45 days to approve it. You're not gonna get the county building inspector to approve, draw
Well, it
45
could be
days.
at the end of the 45 days, go back and have the architect change this and then bring it back, and then we'll get back to another 45 days.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can shorten that, can we shorten it as council?
We gotta leave room for the monthly preservation meeting, unless I call a special meeting, and then that covers all the notifications. 45 days clearly covers 2 meetings, so,
Yeah.
Probably.
Is there a way that we can have an opt-in, opt-out?
Of the district?
Yes.
No, that, from talking to other things, we've been discussing this one for a while. All the historic designation, the local designations are contiguous. Even the maps from the other towns, they're all one, they're not really spotty, it's all one shape. But there is a possibility of the fringe ones opting out of it, but for this scenario, we were just trying to mimic the National Register. You don't have to have a National Register to have a local designation, so if I believe that. So, like I said, for this exercise, we are just mimicking what's on the National
Okay,
Register.
because I'm getting ready to close this over here. Okay?
Done.
I was just, can we not just do an opt-in, opt-out? Oh, Denny Crowd, sorry.
You tell her name.
Can we not just have an opt-in, opt-out on non-contributing buildings? I know other towns have done that. Just on non-contributing buildings.
I don't have an answer for that.
Can we look into that?
Sarah, do you happen to know if they can opt in, opt out on non-contributing buildings?
I don't know that because again, the contiguous,
That's, I
you
mean,
know, that is. They
overwhelmingly.
did not do that in
What other
Rehoboth.
towns?
I don't know, but I've heard people
Does
talking
not
about
have,
it.
they,
Check with Saluda.
We'll check with the, what is it, SHPO?
Mhm.
Is that the?
State historic preservation,
Yeah.
I think that if it is designated that was something that Rutherford, when you asked, answered that, you know, they said, you know, when it is, you know, when it's been, as a contiguous that they will not allow.
yeah, I mean, this has been, that one we've been discussing with like Sherry Adams for a couple weeks now, and I guess it doesn't drill down that far to the point where it separates those two, but the general consensus is all or nothing, for lack of a better term.
Yes.
Harriet
That's
Hudson,
something.
Harriet Hudson, Mountain Shadows. I just wanted to make a statement that, while I know the current building owners probably have a wonderful plan in mind, and I'm not worried about what they wanna do, I do think we need to worry about the future with the rest of the town, with the rest of the buildings, because there's no way to predict who's gonna come in and what they might think is a good idea. You just can't predict that, and I think we have a responsibility to protect the entire district from someone who comes in with a different frame of mind and a different opinion about what should or shouldn't be here. And the only way to do that is to have a district in place, unfortunately.
Just like last time.
Buy the building, you know, if you want it to look a certain way, buy the building, put your neck on the line.
I'm not in.
And I'm gonna make a last appeal here, that the first rule of government is protect the rights of the citizens and personal property rights, going back to the Magna Carta, the foundation for all human rights. I'm gonna leave it there, but.
Okay, close the public hearing, and I'll call for the question.
Mary, you have to close the public hearing. You have to close the public hearing. It's still, no, I'm a hearing aid.
Close the public hearing.
Okay, I got it.
I call for the question.
And I'm gonna say it. I make a motion, we accept the historic preservation as so read.
All in favor, aye? All opposed likewise?
No.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, consent agenda without item B has been moved. Is there a motion to adopt?
I make a motion to adopt.
All in favor, aye? Opposed likewise, motion carries. Tropical storm Helene damage and restoration at Harmon Field.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'll be brief on that. As you know, we have several projects underway. We're almost done, redoing the ball diamond, the soccer field, and we'll be submitting reimbursement for that. So Brad and I should have a report probably in January, February, on where we stand financially on the money going back. As you know, we have 3 loans with the state, totaling about $450,000, which we have 5 years to pay back. We have $300,000 that the town board moved from the general fund over to the Helene fund, but we're making great progress, and also to the Harmon Field Board is on record. They'd like to see all the money for the projects we cannot rebuild, like the boardwalk, the screen porch, and the cabin. And maybe part of the question area be moved over to the community center building, which is the 10,000 square foot building which required back in '07. And he also directed us to go out with an RFQ that's been sent out. We'll due back on December 3rd. So we're anxious to get some legwork done before we actually hear back on the 428 project in January. That's pretty much a report on that. And then I'll share some additional information on the public works item on the agenda, adding on some grant opportunities because of the lane to help out water and sewer.
Okay, you covered all of 7. Okay. Item 8, board appointments.
I did not have
Do
anything.
not have any, okay? And I think I'm still correct, that sometimes you want to run to a board appointment, and I'm not correct, it still requires a certain order that goes in, and they list, that comes from the state, whether you have something or not.
Yeah,
It's listed
I
in
mean,
the
I
order.
leave it because if somebody resigns,
Understand.
I get one, because I try to get it out there. But
There
then,
is a-
Because I was digging through this, trying to find the board to point.
There is a clear process that we must go by. A goes before B, before C, et cetera. Now, update to Public Works.
We had a meeting, last week. Unfortunately, 3 of our citizens committee, were out of town, were sick. But, we had Alvin, Fuller there, who was the engineer for the Hidden Hill project, and then doing a lot of our work. We've got some great things going. Jim, I'll let you address some of the specifics on that.
One of the things that's been, always try to look at the silver lining, from Helene. It's opened up some opportunities for the towns and counties in Western North Carolina to apply for some grants. And 2 weeks ago, following up the last council meeting, staff met with the Foothills Regional Commission. They're overseeing a grant program of CDBG grant money. And so it's kind of funny, they said only one person can go to the meeting, so I went to the meeting and they went through projects that I had listed. And they kind of highlighted the ones they felt had the best chance. And the application process actually opened up in late January. One is the fire station throughout Helene. You can see the pitfalls we had. It was originally built as a fire department for volunteers. We now have 7 full-time firemen, 2 per shift. And the fire chief's office is now a bunk room. When the National Guard was here, we only had 1 shower. So they like to make the fire station addition is a high priority for this grant program. They also know about the Public Works Garage. The employees work out of that building. It's been built since 1970 and needs a lot of work, so that's going to be a priority. They also brought up they'd like to see some downtown street improvements take place. So those are the 3 areas, plus water and sewer. And there's another grant program that's gonna specialize in water and sewer projects, so I added up the cost. I think the public works projects we shared last week was like $5.7 million in just projects alone on the water and sewer side. And plus we have additional projects for the fire station and so forth. So, and the FEMA money for Harmon Field, the community center, there's gonna be several opportunities for this town. And one thing about a small town, I take great pride that the staff we have here, we can move quicker with our consultants to respond. And so when they mentioned Public Works Garage and Fire Station Addition, the fire chief and I are working on doing the RFQ for the fire station now and get something going, so when they ask for information for the grant, we'll be prepared. And so that's our goal the next few months, is to try to capitalize on all the money that's out there, that's now available. I guess, Skip, anything else? Well, one thing we brought up at the end of the meeting, Skip was able to meet our supervisors, like street department, Andrew McAllister, Chuck Sherbert, Randy Darling, sanitation, and so forth. And what I like about it, they didn't hold back. They did lobby, what you mentioned earlier at the work session. We have an aging fleet that needs used and new trucks. And so at the next meeting, we're gonna talk about that in detail with Public Works, then take it over to Finance Committee and talk about the best way to finance it. But I thought it was a very productive meeting that you had, and we meet again December 11th. Not too far off, a couple weeks from now.
Jim, I have a question. The water and sewer mapping that they're gonna be doing, is that for all the neighborhoods?
It's for the major water and sewer lines that we own throughout the township and the town. That project is basically finished. Then we're also looking at capital improvement program. So Andrew McAllister and I, he heads up the water and sewer department. We went through it in detail, added some things that were missing. So that's gonna come before the council in January for review and adoption. And we're also looking at a rate study for the water and sewer system. But the council did approve the CIP before I was here, back, I guess Bill and the mayor here. You updated the CIP back in March of 2020. And it had extensive projects. And the consultant recommended financing all those projects. I'm pleased to report that the first $6.2 million out of the gate, 5.7 of it is grants. And then Emily was quick to point out to me, we applied for a loan for $609,000, and the final cost is how much?
It was right around $450.
$450. So we're gonna pay that loan back over 20 years at an interest rate of 0.14%. So the first projects out of the gate, we're not financing them. And one of the questions that I think Julie, you had, we discussed at the Public Works meeting, why not just go get a big bond issue and do all the projects at once? I wouldn't recommend that, primarily because the town's got a good track record of getting grants. And if you went out and borrowed it all, you have to pay it back. Cost of issuance are pretty high. So I think the state revolving loan program with getting principal forgiveness and these other grants like CDBG and the other monies that are available from Lane might be the best way to go for the long-term benefit of the taxpayers and ratepayers here in Tryon.
Thank you.
That's my report.
Okay, number 10, I guess we can vote on this now, the depot street closure for the underground utilities project.
Okay, so,
Since it's already been done,
well,
they haven't finished it.
well, yeah, the road's been open. This is for full road closure. Chris Burks with ITG Communication has requested a road closure for Depot Street from Monday, November 24th to Wednesday, the 26th, to bury the utility lines, to improve the appearance of Depot Street in the area. Access to the back here would only be available on foot, so I don't know if we need a stipulation to require pedestrian traffic from Depot. we obviously, if approved, we will arrange access for the affected homes and
Bury that
businesses.
cable and go underground with equipment. We need to close that street so nobody will get hurt for
Right.
safety.
Right. So we're just trying to figure we have Kennedy Lane back there, we have the dentist office, we have some of these businesses. We're just trying to figure out, we will work, we'll arrange some kind of access for the affected home and business owners.
Okay.
I mean, we can use the church drive to come down and.
It's a one-way street, or can we
What I was gonna ask
do
is,
something with that?
It'd have to be two.
when they
Yeah.
decide they're gonna close this part of the road that you can't get through at all,
So the map,
can
you
we
do
call
have
town hall and have an officer come down for a little while? Or somebody from the fire, somebody in authority would have a uniform. I'm not talking about all day.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, but you can see
I'm
on
not
the map.
saying we can't, I'm asking if we can't.
Depend, like you're saying, probably not all day, because we wouldn't have the staff to be able to do that.
And what are the dates again?
Monday the 24th to the 26th.
Yeah, next Monday.
Yeah, which actually, I mean, it won't affect bingo, not a lot of stuff's open, but that doesn't affect down there, but.
Okay.
But I like the idea of, just reversing that one way, because although I don't use it anymore, the, EV chargers, and I know that sometimes both would be in use, so.
It's a tricky spot.
So if we could do something and come down a different route, at least bring because it's really just that small section. And those cars, and I think there's one other EV charger, but it's just one.
What?
At-
Stotts might have one. I don't know if it's public.
No, I thought there was one.
Yeah, no, there is one up there, but I don't.
It might be Temple too, I don't know. I will also have to check with them if the power's gonna be affected, because they might be offline while they're doing work.
Yeah.
I'll verify, I didn't know,
Yeah.
think of that, but we'll,
Okay.
it'll
What's the
show.
length of time to complete the project?
They said it'd be done by Wednesdays, or, sometime during the
And
20th.
they're putting all the heavy cable in to take the telephone poles down with electricity.
Yeah. Can we give permission predicated on need of use for next week? And if it's not needed, we don't close it?
If it's not needed,
Yeah, let's say, okay, we
Yeah.
want to authorize this, but if it's not needed, if it's needed, the chief of police and the manager can make the call.
yeah, you can do it that way. Or you can put stipulation on the contingency type stipulation.
Well, I thought we could, just want to always ask that. So that puts it there where the people are gonna be when you ask.
Maybe we have detour signs we can mark up and say, drive forward a little bit to.
Yeah, it's up to y'all now.
Okay.
I hear a motion put out there.
Block it, I'll make a motion.
Okay, all in favor, aye? Opposed, likewise, motion carries. Item B,
All right, I believe it's the final page in the packet. We had discussed,
Do you want to do your TDDA?
I'll do that after this.
You do that.
Yeah. So we had talked about making Maple Street a one-way street due to East Howard, or down to East Howard to enhance safety. Now, this vote's just to make it one-way, but parking is part of this. In response to the need for additional parking, well, the parking, I should say, could be a later vote. We need to do the one-way today. In response to the need for additional parking in the downtown area, the town is considering Maple Street a candidate for more spaces. Due to the width of the street and the vicinity of the Public Works garage, parallel parking would meet the requirements of the ordinance and leave sufficient access for safe egress in and out of the facility. Designating it one way would be the initial step in the process. The town asked the two residents on the street for their opinions. One would prefer there not be parking in front of their house. The other owner was sent a letter asking to contact the town, as well as staff knocking on their door. We have not received any correspondence, and nobody was home when we knocked. It has also been brought to the staff's attention that there is a small environmental well in the road in front of 62 Maple that may need 24/7 access. I'm gonna verify that. tomorrow or the next day, and once verified, we'll know if it's possible to put a parking space in the vicinity.
So are we voting on one-way street?
Just one way.
Yeah.
Then, but not parking, okay, I'm just was confused.
Right,
because we were
yeah.
talking mostly about
I
parking.
mean, but this, once we figure out where, if with the well, and, I mean, based on public opinion, we might, this is just a mock-up of what it potentially could look like. I mean, I guess we can vote on that.
Well, then my question would be, if we are we only doing one-way parking one-way street for eventual parking? Or do we really need one-way street irrespective of one-way parking? Because, I mean, that's a different question.
Right, well, we had discussed, just safety issues in the area with, you know, we are gonna repave that parking lot. There will be more traffic down there, based on there being residential around there. I believe a one-way street would bolster safety in that for at least, because some people fly up that thing, they might not stop. I think the visibility will help with the one-way street.
But just because we vote, let's say that we pass the one-way street, that does not mean automatically parking will be designated.
No,
And that's what I was getting
We will-
confused about, because we were talking a lot about parking rather than
Right, it's
the
for,
question.
yeah, in the big picture, it's actually for more parking.
Right.
And I understand, I've seen people go the wrong way and.
yeah, we will not add any parking spaces until discussed further. But this is just specifically one-way designation, and we'll put up wrong turn.
And those wells are scheduled a year in advance when they come test.
Okay.
I mean,
No, they're not.
yeah, they do.
They called me 2 weeks before they arrived and mailed me a certified letter.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, 52 weeks.
But they've already, but the company's already put on their schedule, the state says you need to check these, you know.
I mean, I gave them all the information. He has both companies,
That's fine, always identify yourself, anything that's said is supposed to be recorded. Please, ma'am.
So I make a motion that we set the one-way down, make,
All in favor, aye? Opposed likewise, motion carries. Christmas parade and stroll.
I'm sorry.
Christmas parade and stroll.
Okay, Christmas parade and stroll. I'll roll the TDDA update into this too. Well, we'll start with the first closure. We would like to request the Tryon Midnight Road closure on Trade from Palmer to Oak Pacolet for 12/31 from 5:30 to 10:30 to allow for the band to set up and the festivities throughout the evening.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion.
Okay. I mean, we do it every year.
Waiting for him to clarify what he said.
What did I just say?
We
Do
want
the time and day.
time and date. 12/31, New Year's Eve from 5:30 to 10:30 to allow for the band to set up, and they're gonna perform from 7 to
And we're
9.
gonna close anything for the Christmas parade and stroll.
We're,
That's what's written
the
down.
Christmas parade, yes, but that's coming up. We're just doing, we gotta do the road closures individually, so we're trying midnight first.
New Year's Eve, you've already made the motion. All in favor, aye? Those likewise, motion carries.
Okay, I'll do the other closure, working with the Tryon Fire Department in preparation for the Christmas parade, which will be held on December 10th at 6 p.m. We are asking for a street closure on Trade Street from New Market to Palmer from 5:45 to 6:45.
Motion,
I'll make a motion.
all in favor, aye? Opposed likewise, motion carries.
Okay, now the rest of the TDDA update. TDDA is coordinating a wreath contest with business owners that will kick off on Thanksgiving weekend. So come on out on 11/28 to view them and cast your vote. The Tryon Christmas Stroll will be held on 12/5, December 5th, on Trade and Pacolet Streets from 5 to 8 p.m. Santa will be hosted in the Tryon Depot from 5 to 7, sponsored by Modera Wealth. Work on the landscape bank to the left of the clock tower will begin within the next 2 weeks. J&A Landscaping will be performing the work. Ribbon cutting will be held for Sweetgrass Floral Studio on November 28th at 4 p.m. That's 157 North Trade Street. Coordinating the Santa Bash after the parade at the firehouse. We're coordinating Santa Bash. Big Brothers and Big Sisters and Do Not Lose Hope will be joining at the firehouse and providing free food and drinks. Santa will be at the firehouse to meet with the kids. There will be games, balloon animal makers, and goodie bags. And finally, created a community survey for residents' input on the town website. Link can be found here to take the survey. Oh, she didn't give me a. I'll have to post that on the website. I can read this, but it's one of those all over the place link stuff.
The link is there.
Yeah, I'll look on the news page. I'll do this tonight probably. So yeah, that's the note she gave me. Okay. I'll just look at the news page. I'll clarify more. Sorry.
You finished with that one?
And that is the TDDA, yes.
Okay, now we move to minimum housing.
Minimum housing, the Lyle Street property is down and brought to a mobile state, taken care of by the owner, so we did not have to place a lien as the town. And I have 2 quotes for 112 Jackson Street extension, the lower of which is $10,500. So we're going with that, and we're scheduling an asbestos test right now to get that done. So that'll probably happen after Thanksgiving, obviously, but it's moving. That's it.
Town manager report, Jim?
I've got 3 items I'd like to talk about. Last Friday, Tim Daniels and Lourdes Gutierrez in downtown, and I met with the National Trust for Historic Preservation. We talked about the Nina Simone house, and we spent over an hour talking about how to educate the public and visitors on the Fluted Grade Trail. And we shared with them our plans on the McAllen Street Park, which the council's retained Mark Byington on. But as people come in to try on, the first thing you're gonna see is the Nina Simone park we have already set up down there. But I was excited about all the ideas of how we can educate the public on the importance of that, plus other things in our community. And I guess, Tim, and you can add, I mean, I thought it was a good meeting.
Yeah, we talked about some of the challenges getting to the Nina Simone house, the parking infrastructure around the area, in general, but yeah, just getting the word out. It was I would say a very productive meeting, and we're gonna continue.
They've got a couple-year plan, and they're working on the plan of how to do the interpretive discussion at the house itself. And so, it's actually gonna dovetail pretty nice with the Fluted Grade Trail program. And moving to the Fluted Grade Trail, tomorrow morning I'm meeting at the Conservative Carolina office. We're working on a strategy to lobby for money from the federal government to fund a portion of the trail from South Carolina to Tryon and from Hendersonville or Zirconia into Saluda. The connection between Saluda and Tryon may be several years off, but the goal is that when the trail gets built, it goes from inland into Tryon, and taking advantage of the design consultant in South Carolina. I guess Senator Lindsey Graham obtained full funding to build the trail to the South Carolina state line. We just want to lobby to get the money to help get our portion built. And then also, I guess we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon, a monthly meeting in the Fluted Grade Trail down in Saluda. And then in December, Skip and I want to host a meeting here at the depot and have Mark Byington share the plans for the McAllen Street Park, how the trail can fit in and so forth. And then finally, although I'm not part of the historic preservation discussion as manager, it's a planning, whatever, but I do want to share with one thing that the town has been a Main Street town since 2007, I believe. And one thing about being a Main Street community in North Carolina, especially when it comes to downtowns and business owners, in Highlands, when I was manager up there, we were able to obtain a $500,000 grant for a major investment because of the Main Street program and our historic preservation up there. And then, in Brevard, we got 3 grants, 2 for $500,000, 1 for $300,000, also for the Main Street program, Department of Commerce. And I know the town here has got grants in the past as well, but Sherry Adams, who works for the Department of Commerce, she's been very helpful on keeping Tryon, connected. So I think there's opportunities for monies there, as we move forward on that particular project. But that's pretty much my report this month.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, order Julie, Tracy, Bill, Skip, and Dee.
So when are we gonna discuss the meeting minutes that were taken off the consent agenda to the regular agenda?
I guess now.
So I didn't realize you wanted to discuss that, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's fine, they would be pulled off
Okay.
to actually, so when I was reading the meeting minutes, especially as they related to the cell tower, they were, I think, incomplete. They left out a lot of information, and I would like to have something added to those minutes. Going back and looking at the, video, this is all from the video. I had posed quite a few questions. Most importantly, I think, was the lack of, there had never been a telecommunications committee formed to discuss this issue, and that I thought that we needed to step back and do that, to which Commissioner Kroll basically yelled at me, a sharp no, saying that the issue had been going on for 10 years, and in spite of the information, the updates in technology, let's just get it done, and I'm paraphrasing.
That's pretty much what I think.
And then, and I'd like the minutes to reflect that. Mayor Peoples brought up the topic of the old cell tower that was never used. And most importantly, without letting me complete what I wanted to say, two most important things. The mayor called the question, and I think in terms of Robert's Rules of Order, the chair, the mayor in this case, is not allowed to call the question. The question needs to be called by a commissioner and seconded by. That's my rule. That's my read of Robert's rules, and we could defer to the attorney on that. Also, per our again for Chapter 30. Rule 5, public address to the board. Section B, the public may speak on agenda items during any meeting prior to any voting by the board. There were a number of different members of the public, citizens, who asked to speak, and they were denied, again, that opportunity to speak, not by a consent. First of all, I think that's counter to what our ordinance is, but secondly, again, it was a unilateral decision. There was no vote by the committee, no motion by a committee member, no second by a committee member, and no vote by a committee member. And I think there's a number of different things, but I know that I'd like especially answers on the way that the voting went, the way that the question was called, the fact that citizens were not allowed to speak, whether it was for or against, and I'm sure that at that meeting there would have been probably 50-50, because we all know that cell service is not the best, but I would like those anomalies to be included first in the meeting minutes, and then perhaps that's something that could be followed up, and let me know if my reading of both the ordinance and Robert's rules is incorrect. And also, again, the ordinance says that if the chair is actively involved in the discussion, either as a pro or a con, then he should excuse himself as the chair and appoint a new chair just for that discussion item.
Where is that?
I believe it was in the ordinance. But I can find it, and let me.
Being a stickler, when you say citizen, is that a citizen of Polk County or a citizen of the town of Tryon? Because three of the people that wanted to talk are not citizens of the town of Tryon.
Do we generally allow non-citizens?
We allow them to speak.
Okay. I think if we have established a past precedence, then we need to do what our precedence has been.
Okay.
But so, I would like to defer the approval of these minutes until they've been rewritten and resubmitted, perhaps at the next meeting. So I'll make if there's no questions, I'll make that motion.
Have a motion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise?
And so in these meeting minutes, I want I want this discussion captured. So which will essentially bring in the anomalies. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Oh, no, that was my comments. That was just bringing something to the agenda. I would hope that in the future that we will follow procedures and ordinances and that we will act in a transparent manner. I want to thank staff for the work that they're doing and for citizens coming out, whether they're inside the town of Tryon or just outside. That's it. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I thought I was first.
Julie?
I wanted to thank the chief, is he still here? And the department for my little challenge coin that I got. That keeps me in check. I appreciate that. And just thanking, the staff for their hard work always. I know they wear a lot of hats. And for everyone coming out, have a good Thanksgiving.
It's good. Oh, okay. I would like to, pick that. The reason I did not make the, motion on the historic was, I wanna protect my town. These are nice people and they're gonna do a nice job. But this is something we've been talking about for almost 10 years, 15 years, and it was time to move it forward and quit kicking that can down the road. On your cell tower or your communication committee, how long would it take you to pull together 5 qualified people to submit alternatives to this council? Because we've been asking for years, well, what can we do? And nobody stepped forward and said the 5G and how does it get paid for and who paid, we don't know any of this. We do know, and that cell tower was in operations. It was a smaller company, it was bought out by, wasn't Verizon, it was one of the AT&T, and they had a tower elsewhere, so they didn't need it. So that's why they quit using it.
One of the questions.
Yeah, why did it stop? That was it. We should have told them to leave the town here.
You signed the contract, you told them that.
They had to take the tower down if they stopped using it. But, yeah, I mean, right now, all we did was say that we're okay signing a lease with Verizon. We got time, come up with better alternatives, but bring us something and bring factual. And, you know, I don't wanna hear that 5G causes, you know, leukemia and you have to wear tinfoil. I wanna see, you know, but yeah, I mean, I'm up for alternatives. It's just, for the safety of this community, we need to move forward with the cell tower.
And can you explain what you mean by safety?
Be able to make a phone call when the internet goes down.
My mom
Call the
was
fire
saying
department. Call the fire
911
department.
is taken care of now.
I don't think that's necessarily true, that I can pick up the phone without cell service in my house and dial anything. I've tried.
I'll come over tomorrow.
I got nothing.
So I'm gonna call you guys tomorrow, and it'll be a fake call, so just, I'll tell you that.
It won't come to us.
Oh, it'll go to Polk County.
Let's go to Polk County.
Tell them it's just crazy Tracy, doing a test.
Okay, but anyway, so that's it. Thank y'all all for coming. Thanks for the staff and everything you're doing. All right.
Just a quick shout out to Sheriff. We had a response up on Doubleday. He was up there immediately. He found the gas line sitting on top of the ground almost, and called Enbridge, and they were out this afternoon. So special shout out.
I just wanna say thank you, folks. Best place I ever lived, not I already left. Keep telling y'all that. Moved here in 1979, stayed 1 year. I got tripped, and I'm still here. Item 14, citizens' comments. If you want to speak, please raise your hand and identify yourself.
And Jim Fountain, could you please give me an update on the fire hydrants? For the third time.
Okay, the contractor that's doing Hidden Hill has agreed to do the fire hydrants after they finish that project. It's too big a project for our crews to actually get done. There's several hydrants, as you know, we wanna get done, so rather than defer it, we wanna get a contractor to do it and get it over with.
Do you foresee that happening anytime soon?
Well, the Hidden Hill project and the Mark McCready, December 31st is the completion date, so it'll be January, February, we'll be moving over to those projects.
And I have one other thing, two other things I want to say. Thank you to the council for your devotion to researching about the historic preservation. I appreciate your due diligence on that. And the other thing is, as far as the cell phone goes, my cell phone only works if I'm standing in the middle of the road in front of my house. And I'm not going out there at 2 o'clock in the morning with bears roaming around. So, and it's been that way ever since they turned the towers. So.
Mary Nelson, I just had a question. If there is a plan in place to address these low-lying older phone lines that evidently are no longer active, but haven't really been removed, and they're along 108, they're along Warrior, and I just didn't know if there was any plan in place to find a way to.
Is that phone or cable?
I don't know, if you drive down these roads, there's lines that are so low that feel like you could just reach up and grab them yourself.
The bottom will be cable.
I've been told that there are phone lines that are no longer even in use.
Some of them are Windstream, some are Spectrum, because I've asked the same thing out there.
There's a bunch connected to the buildings.
Is it 108 and?
Warrior.
Is it all the way in?
Oh, yeah, they're so low.
Follow up on Ann's comments, on Mill Road, you've got 2 poles all the way down with Spectrum's line on the lower pole. Can we not put a little pressure on that?
And they won't do that, because
they can't.
I think we put pressure there before.
We need to put pressure on Duke again.
Yeah, I'll get with Chuck tomorrow, right after, get eyes on it and get started. I'll talk to Craig DeBrew. Craig DeBrew.
There's a new, there's a new officer.
But he's gone.
It will. A lot of times, Duke says a lot of times they expanded the pole, but there's still the utility on the line that has not been moved.
Old lines that are underground.
But I remember.
His contact.
Plus that works.
Oh, so you do have his contact?
Yes.
I'll need that.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Johanna Fox from Tryon. I just want to thank Mr. Cole for being open to the, opportunities for us to speak about cell phone alternatives. And I will be raising my hand to volunteer to be part of a committee since I have so much information already. And I'm thrilled about the preservation and I'm looking forward to seeing it trickle up to Gillette, which is a historic area, and we can, without a tower, without alternatives, and the whole town can be preserved. And I'm gonna work hard to gather some other people and, find the alternatives. There's so much information out there. There's so many variables. Like, I was doing some research. If you don't have an updated phone, if you have an old phone, 5G doesn't work for you. So there's so many things, and I really think just having the information for all of the citizens so that everybody can take, can benefit from, the best practices, better cell service. And I will make sure in my arts and crafts store that you have a nice tin foil hat.
Michaela Water, Maple Street. The Christmas stroll is, so all the stuff, just I wanna make sure, is either at the fire department or the depot, they're taking it out of the plaza this year?
No, we'll have stuff going on at the plaza. I apologize, she's, what is this?
No, you're fine.
I read her report. Shoot.
Just, you can just have it text me.
Okay, we will clarify that.
That's fine.
Keep going.
The meeting you spoke about, Jim, in December for the bike thing, you want the meeting to happen here in December? You and Skip, you're going to a meeting tomorrow and you want the December meeting held here?
This is a great trail.
Yes, sorry.
It's a monthly meeting.
What is the date of that December meeting? Do you know yet?
Well, we meet at 4 PM and Saluda tomorrow.
Okay,
That's our monthly board meeting.
okay.
One of the things on the Saluda Great Trail celebration we had here at the depot back in July, there was discussion that there was not really any representation from Saluda and Tryon, so I contacted Karen Rowe, and they agreed to add 2 from Saluda and 2 from Tryon to that board meeting. We meet monthly. And then we're gonna have that meeting in December here to walk over and take a look at the,
Do you know the
McAllen
date of
Park.
that meeting?
They're gonna set it tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll let everybody know. Also, too, one of the things I brought up was when the Coosa Trail got into Brevard, we didn't ask for protection of the signage, and everything was taken down and gone. So, what I'd like to share tomorrow is that all the signage of railroad crossings remain along the Saluda Great Trail, not be taken down. And then we have the 2 signal boxes over here at McAllen Park. I think we could take one of those and relocate it into the depot area. Rather than having it going off to someplace else, that we keep that history here. But it's like one of those things, if you don't ask, you don't get. So Skip and I are gonna share that tomorrow with the local Conservative Carolina board.
Okay, and then my last thing, you and Tim were talking, you met with the Nina Simone group about all the different stuff. So, you were you're still on board. Do you remember when, on tourism, when I was on tourism, and we did the whole You Go Tours thing, and we paid, and Chris did an amazing job, and your wife did, and there's all these walking tours that are digitalized of downtown Tryon. Your wife will know.
Yeah, she would know. I was.
So
very
her,
involved.
well, who was on the board with me, and you were there, you were there, and Tracy and Chris, and they did this whole, we had a company do it, and they did the You Go tours, there are all these walking tours, they have QR codes, there's like speakers, they're all audio guided, we paid a ton of money for them. Can they not use those or put those up, or can we not? I mean, no one's ever used them since we paid all the money for them.
We'll definitely check it out.
Is that like 22 different sites?
I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah.
We had a company do it, they did like Nina Simone, there was like four separate,
Falls.
Pearson Falls, there was like 4 separate landmarks or historical things, and then each one had a walking tour with different stops, and it was all like QR code based, and there was audio and visuals, you could pull it up on your phone, you could read it.
No cell service, couldn't pull it.
Well, you know, but I mean, Chris did it, Chris and Tracy were
Yeah.
the ones that did most of it. I think actually his voice was one of the tours, like he
Yeah.
read it, he narrated it.
I do remember a lot of discussion about the fact that
We never.
we
did
couldn't,
anything.
well, no, it was up and running, but you couldn't use it because you didn't have the cell service to pull the app up.
But I mean, if it's already done and you guys are giving them stuff,
Okay.
maybe they should know that that already exists.
I'll talk with her.
Cause the town paid, well, towards it.
Who are you talking with?
My spouse, my wife.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
No, I
Well,
thought
actually,
talking
yeah.
with Tracy and stuff.
Yeah.
The other Tracy in his life.
Yeah, yeah.
The other Tracy.
Somebody just said somebody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a real quick clarification,
Yeah.
the stroll is on the 5th,
Yeah.
the parade is on the 10th, and that Santa Bash is after the parade. Is that what you're asking? So the stroll will have Santa Claus on the plaza as it does. And then the parade, Santa will get off the float and be the fire department. Is that-
So when's he at the depot?
Let's see, it's-
Yeah,
You
because
got
they're
the
in
pla-
a
Santa's
well.
at the plaza.
I know.
What's it? Oh, yeah, Depot Plaza, yeah, oh,
Yeah.
well, not Depot. Same. Yeah. Also real quick, Beer Fest was a big success, 625 people showed up, just want to say that.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Claudia Moose, and I live on North Trade. Have been impacted by the Hidden Hill Sewer Project. And I just want to thank everybody, Tim, Alvin, they've been very helpful. Wasn't expecting the scope of the work that took place in my yard, and most of my yard has been torn up and has now been put back together. But I've raised concerns to the town through Tim and Alvin. They've come to my house several times to talk me off the ledge, and Matt from Nolar has also been very good about talking to me about it. I'm still kind of concerned about the value of my property with 3 manholes now in my yard, but I do want to say, and I told Alvin and Tim that I had no beef with anybody at the town, I was just concerned about everything that was happening, but yeah, so my terracotta pipes are no longer
And it goes down.
Yes, sir.
Greg Meyer Drive. My favorite subject, kudzu. I know that we had ordinances passed in 2019, I think. And I don't think they're being enforced, which I get because we're down on staff and all that kind of stuff. But my question would be, or my concern is, at what point do we enforce that? Meaning, how bad does it have to get before, yeah, we need to do something about it? So I just think you guys need to talk about it somehow and come up with some suggestions.
We've had a noxious weed ordinance ever since I moved here.
That's the linchpin though. Kudzu, I don't think is designated as noxious weed anymore.
Yeah, it's
So
not.
that's where the teeth kind of get kicked out of the ordinance.
And I suggest we rewrite our ordinance, PD.
Well, based on what you said, you and I talked, I have a neighbor that can't get down to the woods on the property to killed the kudzu. So, does the town have any way to get money from grants that can get that hit?
Well, we're talking about,
Kill these people's kudzu?
what Skip Crow is taking lead on is, it's like two fronts. We currently have money from the County Appearance Commission to tackle publicly owned properties. And what Skip had asked the town board to consider is putting up some money, and we're talking about maybe, my recommendation is put up maybe 10,000 in the first year to go after private property. So Woodland Park, for example, could be the public side, and then the private side could be the property we can't get to. We get it easier from the Woodland side. And also tackle some properties on the east side. But it's gonna take a number of years, but if we use, I would hate to see the town money go to the public, but we can get money from the Appearance Commission and use the town money for private properties. You get the most bang for the buck.
Yeah.
But I think we need to start, and I guess you can't do anything now during.
Yeah, we kind of missed the window. I had two companies come out and give us quotes on Ziegler Field, doing some work over there just to get some comparisons. And they both agreed it was too late in the season we'd be wasting money, basically.
But I think that in order to be successful, we need to make an annual budget appropriation.
Yes.
For this process.
And I'm working on a document that private property owners will have to sign absolving the town of any liability whatsoever for if something dies after we spray, so.
But like Greg Minor, he's been taking the lead on the public side. You've gotten several grants.
Oh, yeah. So, the ordinance is to establish the fact that some properties are becoming poor. They're difficult to just to see and stuff. I mean, sometimes it's just, it's not, we enforce things about grass being too high, or maybe garbage in the front of the house, but, kudzu is also a blemish. At what point does the town say this property owner is not maintaining their property and puts out a citation or whatever the provision was in that? And I don't know what the answer is. I'm not suggesting I have an answer, but I'm suggesting that it would be helpful for people that are in the community that want something done to a property, that there is a backup. And if this passes that particular standard, then it could be enforced. So right now, I don't think there's anything enforceable there. And it obviously has to meet with the resources that we have at the town. I know we need to be flexible, but I think that we have an ordinance that isn't being enforced, it's an ordinance that recognizes a problem, but doesn't have any enforcement to it, so.
What were your bids for Ziegler? What did they?
Well, they were gonna, if you go to Ziegler Field, that terrible kudzu patch on the road, it was like $1,000.
Do you know in terms of like acreage, how much per acre?
Depends
Do you
on
have the topography?
One of the companies has a drone that will hold 10 gallons of spray that they can, like the hill over at the park over here, it's straight down. They could spray that with a drone.
Would that be just sort of so when, I think, was it you that had scheduled or had a meeting with someone, and I guess the best way is actually to go in and cut and do.
Are you saying how to treat a field of kudzu? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, well, just basically what it costs per acre to do it. I think the drone would be sort of
The drone would be an expensive way, because you'd have to have a drone that's capable of carrying multiple gallons of.
But would it be sort of permanent? Cause.
No, when you spray kudzu, I'm coming from, I killed it on Carson Street, and my shop up there was completely engulfed when I bought it. And now I'm working on the other side of the railroad tracks, working towards school. and I've got a big chunk of Riders Park taken care of this summer. But 2.5 gallons of broadleaf will run you about $160, and you can probably do an acre with that if it's laying on the ground.
So I'm not recommending that we spray the whole town and stuff, I'm just saying we have problem properties, and you want the homeowner to do something about it. What resources do we have? When does it become so ugly that the town feels that something has to be done? So, I mean, we're just talking about a small project.
Well, I mean, there's, up near the Methodist church, there's a corner lot. The church and the homeowner have not done anything with the kudzu on that corner. It is now way up in the trees. It would be a simple chop the vines, spray the ground twice a year, and in 2 years, the problem's gone. But, you know,
I think
I
think for the town, as far as the visualness of it all, is the worst part is when it's going into the trees. And you've seen kudzu where it's draped all the way to the top, so it stands 50, 70, 80 feet high. I would think that hits the limit of your ordinance.
Yeah.
I mean, that something could be done, because, you know, it needs to be enforced at that point.
The thing is that we're past which we should do something. We all know we are. The problem is, we don't have this room full of money to buy enough stuff to take care of. And that is the big drawback.
The property owners take care of their property.
The property owners, whether it's the town, whether it's the state, it's there. And we don't have enough money to do it. Nor does the state.
Well, now, wait a minute.
Nor do the individual property owners.
So this is my experience, to get rid of kudzu out of trees, all you do is cut at the ground level, daub it, and you're not talking a lot of money.
No.
You're talking about a lot of money when you're spraying all over the place. Here, you're just going with one area to get out of the trees, and if that's all you're doing, it's a minimal amount of money.
It's like weed eating around your house.
Forget that a lot of people look like this.
Dude, I'm 70.
I wouldn't wanna do it around my
Well,
property.
you guys passed the ordinance, I didn't.
You're right, you're right. But I
And
think
therein
so.
lies the problem, is we need to make a lot of better
Let's
decisions.
move on, and Jim, can you meet with some people and figure out what we can do?
Sure, I think
And
we'll
we're
pick
gonna
up
start-
the committee.
I think the big thing we need to do, folks, we talk about it to death. Pick an area, let's start.
Yeah, you need a demonstration, right?
I mean, I'm happy, I just wanted to bring it up. I'm done.
Send you a, you can afford it.
Yes, I would
How do you
suggest we
know?
do
You
a
don't
pilot
have
project
finances.
first and go.
No.
You haven't seen my balance sheets.
No, maybe what we're doing, you don't have any money.
You got one.
And
I was just gonna recommend, I know Greg knows him well, is Clyde Youngkin, who's with the Saluda Land Trust.
Yeah.
He recently came and gave an excellent program at Rotary about how to get rid of kudzu, small patches, large patches, step by step. He has a brochure that explains all of it, and he would be a wonderful resource for this town to use.
Cheryl, we'll take a motion to go into closed session to discuss potential litigation and personnel.
I'll make